Hey everybody, we're here. I was about to say that we're back, which I guess is technically true, although I think it's more appropriate for a bank, for coming back after a break. But anyway, hey, how's it going? Big day today. Obviously, it is voting day, so hopefully you guys got out there. Here in Michigan, there's 3 different ballot proposals, which I think were incredibly important. Legalizing recreational marijuana, obviously super important. I voted in favor of that. Ending gerrymandering, as well as automatic voter registration and other things that actually help increase voting. So, holy crap. A lot of very interesting, fantastic, actually, ballot initiatives in my state. Hopefully that's the case in a lot of other states where you guys are at as well. Look, if anything, even if you don't like some of your candidates that are on the ballot, make sure to at least check out the ballot proposals and go to the polls. So very, very important. Again, super big day. We figure out whether or not the Democrats can put an effective stop on Trump in the Congress. So control of the House and the Senate is, and a lot of governorships as well, is on the line today. So super important. Okay. So, I'm a little, I'm gonna tell you, I'm a little nervous, right? So like people have like, I've said before, this is kind of like my Super Bowl. Not in the fact that it's, oh, I'm voting on my team, etc. I just meant in more of like the general excitement sense, right? Because I look forward to this, to seeing how elections go, ballot measures, which will change our lives for the better, candidates that might actually change our lives for the better, etc. So that's why I'm like super, super excited today. And also more of like on pins and needles. Like I voted and I voted what I believe is the right way. And now I'm just worried that the rest of the state is going to fuck it up. So it's going to be really exciting to go through and see the results of today's election. But anyway, my polling place had a lot of people there. Great turnout in my area. And I hear great turnout in a lot of areas across the country, so that's fantastic. Younger people turning out as well. That's also great. Setting records on midterms. Excellent. Excellent. That's what we want to see. That's how you actually, get politicians in there who might actually make change. And so, and now, I also mentioned, I know some of you are very skeptical of that. I get it, right? That's why you have to pressure them once they get into office. So that's basically what I have to say about that one. But all right. Anyway, we got stories today. Fun stuff. We have Trump supporters. I don't even want to give any information about that. But it's a fun story, so we'll start out with that. Then we also have Ivanka Trump getting some patents. We have Don Jr. And what might happen after the election and what Republicans are actually worrying about the most. At least the White House. We've got the Foxconn deal in Wisconsin. Details about that. And then finally, Trump thinks, oh no, climate change. We don't have to worry about it because the earth will just cool itself down. Yeah. Okay. That's fun. So that's what we've got today. A range of serious to incredibly stupid on today's stories and in today's show. So stick around for the rest of that. We're going to be going for about probably about an hour, if not a little bit more. And then, of course, I know a lot of you are going to be going switching back and forth from TYT's live coverage of election results. So, hey, that's good. I'm glad that they're doing that all day. I wish I could do that all day. So, you know, we'll try not to go over too much today, so you guys can get back to that and see. All right. So, before we get into the show, thank you to the patrons, as always, patreon.com/tytnation for making this show possible. And hopefully, you know, we'll get to a point of where we can expand, get some staff members, etc., and then actually do all-day election coverage. That would be great. We're not quite there yet, but every new patron sign up helps us get closer to doing more. So thank you. All right. That said, let's get into the first story. Let's have a little fun. So in a lot of his speeches, President Trump calls himself and his supporters very, very smart people. In fact, Donald Trump has called himself a very stable genius, and always extols his power, his brain power. Like, no, we are the smartest. We're the elite. We're the best. And everybody else, they're incredibly stupid. That's kind of funny because at a recent rally in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, now this was yesterday, day before the election, right? Trump supporters made a little bit of a mistake. And I'm going to see if you guys can point that out in this next video.
Thank you. Thank you.
Does somebody want to tell them that it's not 2020 yet? I mean, for God's sakes, sure, it feels like it's been 4 years. It feels like it's maybe been 40 years since the 2016 election. But it's only 2018. Donald Trump has only served 2 years. 4 more years of what? Exactly. Oh, dear God. Now, of course, the internet, in its sheer awesomeness, and this is why I love the internet, immediately piled on. I'm going to read you some tweets. These are great. Now, one Twitter user wrote, "Admittedly, I'm terrible at math." I hear you, brother. "But shouldn't they be chanting 6 more years?" There's more. Anita Kumar points out the obvious. "The crowd chants 4 more years in Missouri. He still has 2 more. Aaron Rupar tweets, "Oblivious to the fact Trump is not on the ballot tomorrow, his supporters in Missouri chant 4 more years." Jeff Delaney says, "Loud chants of 4 more years at the Trump rally tonight in Missouri. I think they mean 6. Now, T-Pain says, "Donald Trump's crowd chants 4 more years, while Donald Trump Jr. is looking at more like 5 to 10. That's funny because there's another story about that that gets into a little bit more detail. Then Snark says, "Crowd chants 4 more years, 4 more years. I can't. This isn't how you prove you're the smartest, yo." And finally, Dor Zigdenlax, interesting Twitter name, said, "The crowd at the Trump rally just chanted 4 more years. If the right to vote was contingent on passing an arithmetic test, all would be under the yoke of a one-party system." And then adds, "A girl can dream." Oh, geniuses. They're so smart. I'm obviously not calling every Trump supporter stupid, because that in itself would be stupid, right? And completely unfair. But to think that there aren't dumb people in that crowd who don't know when the next election actually is, at least presidential election. That says something. Okay. Again, fun, dumb story, but we move on. Something a little bit more consequential. Okay. So Ivanka Trump is, well, she's in the White House. She does something. I don't exactly know what job she actually does, but she is supposed to not be involved in the Trump businesses while she's actually in the White House. Now, that's interesting because what we've learned from previous stories is that she still is, or at least was until recently, involved in a lot of her businesses. Now, why is that important right now? Other than, of course, the obvious conflicts of interest and corruption. Well, the reason that it's back in the news is that she recently, and this is while we're in the midst of a trade war with China, just received some patents from China. Now, this is according to HuffPost. White House advisor Ivanka Trump has just recently won preliminary approval from China for an additional 16 business trademarks. Now, we just found out about this. This actually happened last month. Now, this is according to Chinese records released by Citizens for Ethics and Responsibility in Washington. Now, what's interesting is I mentioned before, she shut down her fashion brand back in July, or at least announced it. Now, she could have just transferred the trademarks, right? And she still could. And she could relaunch her fashion business. Now, the Washington Post reported at the time that she still, even though she said she was shutting this down, that she was still planning to get these patents. Now, Richard Painter, chief White House ethics lawyer for former President George W. Bush, told the Post back then, quote, "She's dissolving the company now, but is continuing to get trademarks so she can sell her stuff all over the world later." Now, what better time to get those trademarks than now, when every government around the world wants to play nice with their father? That is an excellent question and an excellent observation. Of course, this is the time. This is the time where she's like, yeah, of course, I'm going to use my position and my dad's position to benefit me in business later. No, wait, you're actually not supposed to do that. Well, there's a lot of things that the Trump family does that they're not supposed to do. So now, fast forward today to the Crew statement. They said that since Trump has retained her foreign trademarks, the public will continue to have to ask whether President Trump has made foreign policy decisions in the interest of his and his family's businesses. Now, to that I say, of course he has. That's all this presidency is there for, is to make Donald Trump money. This is to make the Trump empire and the Trump family business more money. And look, I actually think that originally Trump was like, yeah, I'm going to run for president. I'm going to lose, but I'm going to get so much free publicity that it's actually going to help my business. He did not count on winning. And then when he won, he's like, ah, shit. I won the presidency. What do I do? Oh, I know. I'm going to help myself to the Chinese market. I'm going to help myself to Saudi Arabia. I'm going to help myself to all these different countries because now I'm president. Who's going to stop me? And that's exactly the question. Right now, nobody can stop you. Unless, of course, Republicans lose the Senate and the House. So, but anyway. Now, they also mention that granting the latest trademarks could also be viewed as a way for China to curry favor with the Trump administration, basically to try to get us to end the trade war. Now, in May, Ivanka Trump's business won approval for at least 5 Chinese trademarks just days before the president announced plans to help lift U.S. sanctions on Chinese cell phone manufacturer ZTE. And I talked about that. I covered that. And of course, that story also had the appearance of corruption, because it absolutely was. Now, coinciding with that, you also had the president's, you also had a theme park, right? The developer of a theme park near Jakarta in Indonesia with a Trump licensing agreement, also signing a deal for up to $500 million in Chinese government loans. So all that is connected with Donald Trump. He's using this office to benefit himself and his businesses. And his family is doing the same exact thing. Now, the first daughter's business was also granted 3 new Chinese trademarks last year, in the same day she dined with President Xi Jinping. If it wasn't obvious enough before, she got 3 patents as soon as she sat down with dinner with the Chinese president. It is corruption. It is corruption. Absolutely 100%. Now, these latest trademarks include shoes, wedding dresses, jewelry, nursing homes, sausage casings, and this final one is important, voting machines. She's got a patent for voting machines. Now imagine getting those patents from China to sell in China. Then also consider the possibility that if Donald Trump wins in 2020 and Republicans retain control of House and Senate, and, you know, she gets those manufacturing of those voting machines up and running, I wonder who would buy those voting machines. Could it be states that maybe are linked with Trump? Trump allies? I don't know. Maybe. Would you trust voting on a Trump voting machine? I wouldn't. Now, many of these trademarks, by the way, will be active until 2028, according to Crew. And so, look, this is a big example of why the Trump family is getting in trouble with the emoluments clause. Which, by the way, that lawsuit is actually scheduled to go forward. So, look, it's fairly obvious. This whole entire family is deeply corrupt. Deeply corrupt and deeply problematic. And it didn't start with Ivanka. The head, of course, I should say the fish rots from the head down. So what they learned from daddy. So, okay. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We got more stories here. So stay right here around the nation. everybody, welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here. Jeff Waldorf here with you. All right. So, apparently there's some fun in the chat going on with people, I don't know, trolling, etc. That's fun. Don't feed the trolls, guys. It's, they will scream into the void. Let them. Anyway. Let's move on here. Let's go with what happens or could happen after the midterms. Okay. Uh-oh. So today is the midterm election. It's actually really important. A lot of races could decide what happens in the House and the Senate. So it's possible Democrats could pick up a few seats. It's possible Republicans could pick up a few seats in the Senate. So we're not sure how it's going to go, but there are some Republicans in the White House who only see disaster. Now, Gabriel Sherman of Vanity Fair spoke to many of these Republicans. This is both current and former administration officials to kind of get a sense of what Republicans are thinking about the midterms and what possibly comes after. Now, and it's not good. For the midterms, a former West Wing official told Sherman, quote, "Everyone is resigned to the outcome." Now, what does that mean? It means we think we're going to get our ass kicked. Oh, no. Now, sources said that Trump has been privately working to absolve himself of any blame if there is indeed a blue wave, which, look, I'm not sure. Is that going to happen? I don't know. Is it possible? Yes. It could also be possible, depending on, for example, voters that are not likely voters going out and turning out for Republicans. That is certainly possible as well. Okay. Nonetheless, right? Trump is actually pretty happy with his performance. According to the official, he's happy with his crowds and the turnout and the excitement. He'll be able to say that it would have been worse without him. So he's been planning the whole time about basically blaming other people if Republicans do get destroyed here, right? Now, the bigger threat, though, however, for Trump, according to Sherman, is Robert Mueller's report. Now, wait a minute. Why would he be worried about Robert Mueller, right? Well, I mean, if it's a witch hunt like Donald Trump claims, well, then he's got nothing to worry about. But look, Trump himself might not be worried, but his staff certainly is. Sources say that Trump advisors are girding themselves for Mueller to deliver the results of his investigation to the Justice Department as early as Wednesday. Although it's more likely that he will wait till later this month. So it could be a bombshell on Wednesday, or it might be later this month, but certainly really soon. Now, that's consistent with what they've been saying all along, right? Because, well, they don't want to, I guess, interrupt the midterm election, which makes sense. So, to avoid, of course, being seen as political, although most certainly Trump supporters will call this absolutely 100% political. So either way, you're not going to really get away with them from them calling this, oh, a political hit job, etc. This entire Mueller report. Nonetheless, we'll move on. Okay. Now, sources say besides the president, the ones with the most exposure are Roger Stone and Donald Trump Jr. In fact, Donald Trump Jr. Is actually one of the people involved that people are worrying about the most. In fact, one former West Wing official who testified before the Senate Intelligence Committee said, quote, "I'm very worried about Don Jr." Now, why would you be worried about Don Jr.? Well, it goes back to that Trump Tower meeting. So the Trump Tower meeting where they attempted to get dirt on Hillary Clinton. Now, did they get dirt? I don't know, but it's possible Mueller did. Maybe. Now, the possible exposure, Sherman writes, would be that Mueller would demonstrate that Don Jr. perjured himself to investigators when he said he didn't tell his father beforehand about the 2016 Trump Tower meeting to gather dirt on Clinton. So that's a situation where, yes, I think it is fairly clear that he was less than honest about the timing and about telling his dad, which his dad certainly had to have known about that meeting. So that is one potential thing that Don Jr. could definitely get in trouble for, lying to federal officers. Okay. Now, there's more here. Okay. Another potential sign of how worried they are, according to Sherman, is the near silence of Rudy Giuliani. You know, that's right. I haven't even noticed that Rudy Giuliani has basically been gone. I should have noticed because this guy's an idiot. But he has been very, very uncharacteristically silent. And so, oh boy. In fact, one former White House official, when asked by Sherman about Giuliani's whereabouts, he said, quote, "Yeah, what the hell happened to Rudy?" Well, he's gone, man. He is gone, and he is making sure to shut his mouth, which again is very uncharacteristic of Rudy Giuliani. In fact, according to 3 sources briefed on Trump's legal team, Giuliani has been in Europe visiting consulting clients as well as preparing a report with Trump's lawyers, Marty and Jane Raskin, that is designed to provide a counter-narrative to Mueller's document. So whatever it is that it says, they are actually working on a counter. Oh boy, I can't wait to see their counter-arguments to this one. Giuliani is not known as a very smart person or a very good lawyer. Just saying. Nonetheless, a Republican close to Giuliani said they don't know what Mueller has, but they have a good idea, and they're going to rebut it. Well, we'll see what happens, right? But another source contradicted that and said that Trump himself instructed Giuliani to stay off television to avoid hurting Trump's midterm message, which, of course, we see as nothing more than fear, fear, fear. Here are the immigrants that are coming. And I've been seeing memes, right, everywhere about the so-called caravan, which is just refugees fleeing Honduras. Honduras, of course, the United States backed the coup in Honduras, the military dictatorship. So that is kind of our mess. So maybe we have some sort of responsibility there to maybe at least help the people in this so-called caravan. But no, instead, Trump fearmongers about it and even says, well, if they start throwing rocks, we should give the military the ability to shoot them, which, of course, is it's illegal. It's an illegal order. So good luck on that one. But nonetheless, his whole midterm message has been fear, 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 be afraid of the immigrants. We've got to build a wall. And of course, a lot of Trump supporters, that's the only thing that they actually care about. That's the only thing that they give a shit about. Now, back to Giuliani. Trump's thinking apparently is, and yes, he does think, I gave you a lot of rope, and now you've got a lot of rope marks around your neck, according to the source. Look, that's not too far off from the truth. Giuliani is a terrible lawyer. Look, if I were Donald Trump, I'd have fired that guy long ago because he's not a smart person and he's not even good representation. So it is interesting to see that Giuliani is gone, but we'll see what happens when it comes to this Mueller report, when it happens, when it gets finally released. It's going to be very interesting. If they have anything on Trump or if they have anything on Don Jr., we'll see. So I wouldn't pin my hat on the Mueller report myself. I think the best way to defeat Trump is to defeat him at the ballot box. And so that, even if the Mueller report is very damning, and it could be, I'd still go for the voting option. But anyway, that said, let's move on. All right. So let's go to some economic news. So last month, the president hyped up an incredible deal with Foxconn. Now, you guys might remember Foxconn as the company that was famous back in 2012 for their suicide nets. Now, that was when they were operating, obviously, in China. Now, this deal, of course, hopefully wouldn't involve any suicide nets, as there will be a factory built in Wisconsin. Now, talking about it to Scott Walker, Trump had said, I got him set up with an incredible company called Foxconn. Now, I would really argue against calling them incredible. Nonetheless, he said, Foxconn came to Wisconsin with the most incredible plan. It's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. We toured it, and we had a ribbon cutting a few months ago, and I handed it over to Scott. There's no plant like it anywhere in the United States. One of the most incredible things I've ever seen. One of the most incredible things. Can he say incredible anymore? I mean, seriously? But, okay, that aside, is it actually incredible? I mean, look, you say, hey, man, they're bringing a factory over here. They're going to build one in Wisconsin. It's going to make jobs, right? A lot of jobs for Wisconsinites. So, is that true? Well, according to Dan Kaufman, writing for The New Yorker, no. For one, this is going to cost Wisconsin quite a bit of money. The deal ultimately will cost taxpayers more than $4.5 billion in subsidies. So that is coming from the taxpayer to the company itself. Wisconsin is paying Wisconsin taxpayers $4.5 billion in subsidies. Just cash, right? Now, the thing is, Wisconsin manufacturing companies, they don't pay taxes at all. So this is just handouts and giveaways. Now, in fact, Kaufman wrote, Foxconn, which generated $158 billion in revenue last year, will receive much of this subsidy in direct cash payments from taxpayers. That is the largest subsidy given to a foreign corporation in U.S. history. That is a lot of money. Now, look, you might think, yeah, okay, so it's an investment, guys, but don't worry, it's going to create a lot of jobs. In fact, it's supposed to create 13,000 jobs, right? So, okay, maybe, yeah, it's a lot of money up front, but we're going to get jobs and economic growth, right? Is that going to happen? Well, look, it's projected that if Wisconsinites do see a return on that investment, it'll be about around the year 2042, according to an analysis from the nonpartisan Legislative Fiscal Bureau. So that's a long time to see an investment or to see any sort of return on that investment. But okay, so maybe that's not a smart investment, but jobs. Let's think about the jobs, right? Well, again, as I mentioned, 13,000 new middle-class manufacturing jobs, right? So did that happen? Well, the company, according to Kaufman, recently changed the factory that it plans to build, downsizing to a highly automated plant that will only require 3,000 employees. Okay, well, look, 3,000 employees from 13. So that's 10,000 less than they originally promised, but they could at least be blue-collar jobs, right? Nope. Apparently, all the assembly work will be done by robots. Now, have I talked about automation before? Yeah. Automation is eventually what all factories are going to go to. It is an inevitable part of the cycle, right? It is an inevitable part of our economy. So we've got to figure out what we want to do with our economy before automation takes over everything. So do we want to have an economy that actually works for working people or the robot owners, the robot masters at this point? That is the question, and I fear the answer, right? But anyway, Terry Gao, Foxconn's chairman, has said that he plans to replace 80% of Foxconn's global workforce with Foxbots in the next 5 to 10 years. So of those 3,000 people that are going to be working in this plant, About 90% of them will be knowledge workers, such as engineers, programmers, and designers. These are not blue-collar, middle-class jobs. Now, it's 3,000 high-technology jobs, which is great for those people in the field. But at a cost of $4.5 billion in subsidies, I'm not entirely sure it's worth it. Now, the company, of course, says, oh, no, we're going to hire the 13,000 workers. Don't you worry about that liberal propaganda that you're hearing from the Wall Street Journal, who, by the way, also noted earlier in a story that the people that they will be bringing to work in that factory as knowledge workers might be imported from China. Oh, what happened to American jobs? What happened to being incredible? Oh, it's incredible, all right. It's incredible how much of a boondoggle this is going to be. Now, here's the thing. They've already made this promise before in Brazil, India, and Pennsylvania. And did it actually happen? Did they get what was sold? What they were promised? Nope. They did not. So not only that, but there will be numerous environmental issues as well relating to this. Apparently, Scott Pruitt helped out Foxconn before he had resigned in disgrace by overruling the objections of his staff to grant most of southeastern Wisconsin an exemption from limits on smog pollution. So now they can pollute, and they can even use eminent domain. Now, the company has been granted special court privileges by the state legislature, like the ability to make numerous appeals of unfavorable rulings in a single case. And one of those, of course, is eminent domain. Now, what they would do is force people to sell at a price determined by the village. Now, they've been able to do so by decreeing the 2,800-acre area around the plant as blighted. Now, that is a designation, of course, reserved to property that is detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare. But the board, thanks to Foxconn and Scott Pruitt, has extended that to include property that impairs or arrests the sound growth of the community. So they can take your land at a what they call a fair market price, right, or fair village price, even if you don't want to sell it. And they're doing this to give it to a foreign corporation. Well then, there you go. So, look, the result, billions and billions of dollars wasted, taken away from places that it could be used, schools, roads, infrastructure infrastructure projects, and programs to help the poor and the needy, all in order to give a foreign corporation billions of dollars and the ability to have them do whatever the hell they want. Absolute boondoggle. Now, what's interesting is what they could have done with this money. Now, according to calculations by two former University of Wisconsin Business School professors, they said if Foxconn's taxpayer subsidies were given to random entrepreneurs, the money could generate more than 90,000 jobs, as opposed to the 3,000 jobs, some of which, or most of which, could be filled by importing Chinese people. You want to talk about a con job? This is another con job brought to you by King Con, President Trump, and the Republicans. If you think that they're on your side, they are not. Okay. I'm going to have another break here. Then we'll go to our final story. We're going to probably end a little bit early so we can get back to election coverage and watching what's happening today. So Don't worry. We'll have a more full show tomorrow. Lots to talk about. But we'll take this break. We'll come back right afterwards. Stay right here, Around the Nation. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Run the Nation right here. Have a super chat from Michael McAllister, who shares. He says, I'm a bit nervous. Called my county elections office and they could not verify if they received my mail-in ballot. Told me to call back in a few days. Well, I don't know where you're at, Michael, but that doesn't sound great. But that doesn't necessarily mean there's 100% cases of voter suppression either. So it's a possibility that maybe they're just backed up. And that would not be a surprise considering the turnout numbers. So will that increased turnout impact Democrats or Republicans more? Will it help Democrats more? Or will it help Republicans more? We have yet to see. It could be possible that Trump really excited the base. It could also be possible that Trump really excited the liberal base as well. So we're going to have to see what happens after today or tonight. But anyway, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. That goes to help the show. All right, guys. Let's move on to the last segment here. Let's talk about climate change. Okay. So now recently there was a report that detailed that we have about 12 years to do something major in order to prevent the worst of climate change, right? I mean, look, we're already going to have the effects of climate change. It's not going to be great. We've done a lot of damage over the last couple of hundreds of years to our climate, and basically we're going to have to live with that. Now, that sucks, but we still have a small window of being able to do something about the worst of it. Now, that would involve, of course, a major shift in how we actually generate power, going from fossil fuels, of course, to renewable energy. That would involve a political solution as well, and actually having the political will to actually do something about it. And in order to get the political will, you would actually have to believe in the science. Now, does our president actually believe in the science? Not really. In fact, during his first campaign, he called it a Chinese hoax in order to hurt American manufacturing. Now he's changed it a little bit, but it's not, his position on it, I should say, has not actually really changed at all. In fact, during a recent interview on Axios, he said this: "Is there climate change?" They asked. And he said, "Will it go back like this?" He said, making an up and down waving motion with his hand. "I mean, will it change back? Probably. That's what I think. I believe it goes this way." Again, waving his hand up and down. "We do have an impact, but I don't believe the impact is nearly what some scientists say, and other scientists dispute those findings very strongly." Very, very strongly, in fact. Fascinating. Now, let me give you some details from that report, by the way. Now, this document concludes that it's extremely likely that human activities, especially emissions of greenhouse gases, are the dominant cause of observed warming since the mid-20th century. Now, it also links climate change to forest fires, also rising water levels, also, of course, stronger storms, an increase of storms. Now, the report, of course, keeps in line with the United Nations report that predicts the world has 12 years to take action to avert global catastrophe. Now, the military itself, right, they've actually taken steps to deal with this. But again, not Trump, because, well, you heard his answers. It'll fix itself. If we just do nothing, then it'll go like this, and it'll go back down. This is what we're dealing with, right? Now, he also admitted humans contribute to the hottest climate in modern human history. He also said he could produce scientific reports that dispute human-caused climate change. Now, where are those reports? Now, do those actually exist? I think there's maybe one or two. The rest of them all basically agree that climate change is a problem and it's human influenced. That means we are kind of the problem, and we might actually need to do something if we want to save the climate. Maybe not save the climate, but save our own asses, which I'm actually majorly in favor of, right? I kind of like having a world that we can live in. And I don't know if you guys agree with me. I hope you would. Now, I guess there is a little bit of dispute, and he's right in pointing that out, but they disagree at the extent of which the climate has changed. But they are in consensus that humans are exacerbating this change. So I think the science is actually fairly clear on this. There is climate change, and it is being impacted by humans. It's a matter on what the extent is, and the conversation really needs to be about, okay, yes, this is happening, so what can we actually do? What can we do? I don't want to destroy the economy, of course. I want to actually create a Green New Deal. Green jobs, green energy, right? Things that are not detrimental to society and also bring lots of jobs and opportunity with it. And I think that is something that we can do if we do this the smart way. Are we doing this the smart way? What do you think? I don't see us at all doing anything smart because we are not ruled by smart people. We are being ruled by stupid people. And unfortunately, we have allowed the stupidest of stupid people to be in the biggest position of power. And if we want to change that, well, there's only one thing you can do. Get out there and vote. Okay. So that's it. As I said, ending a little early. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you guys for the super chats. If you haven't already, please give us a like and a share. Like and share our clips, things like that. Also consider becoming a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. So you guys help out the show. I guarantee we get no Soros money. I wish I fucking did. I'm kidding. Let's get all donor money out. And all big donor money out. And just rely on you guys. All right. So, thank you all. We'll see you guys tomorrow. We're going to be watching the elections very, very closely. So, and I hope you guys will too. So, and let's just hope everything works out. If not, well, then we're going to have a very, very interesting show tomorrow. So, thanks, guys. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, TYT Nation. We'll see you guys tomorrow.